Now, if you've watched this show before, you know these are colors I'm not Miss Pink person. Okay, here comes a good one. Something unexpected in the shadows. I like to put unexpected things everywhere. I don't know, you ever remember being a kid and playing with the shadows on the wall and doing little birds? Hi, welcome to Give Your Wall Some Soul. I'm Shannon Grissom. Well, we've been painting a lot of different items with really, really cool colors. So today we're pulling out the red, and the item isn't red, but I picked red as a backdrop because then it would reflect all over the metal, and we can just pick up some really interesting colors. So we're really going to have a lot of fun with this today. This corkscrew, there are a lot of different corkscrews on the market and a lot of different wine bottle openers, but I really chose this just because it reflects whatever you put it up against. So I think I'll do a series of these with some against greens and some blues, but tonight we've got to do some red. So let's get started. All right, so what did I do? I picked a bunch of corkscrews, put it on a red napkin, and then I laid it out in the sun so that we would get light source from just one location. And it's funny. It looks like just a simple setup, but it took a long time to get it placed just right so that it would look great on the canvas. So it really was all about rhythm. I'm going to go ahead and throw the red in the background and get started. First, I'm going to go for the lighter red. And I'm going to take some Cad Red Light and Pearland Scarlet and get a nice rich red over the top red. And that's not going to be enough, so I think I'll just grab everything I have up here and mix it together. Now, initially, I don't think I'm going to paint the entire background. I just want to paint enough so that you'll be able to see how this thing will pop. And if we have time, we'll go back into it later. Okay, that's good. So I'm going to wipe my knife, keep that clean for future use. Grab some painting medium and paint just around the lighter areas. So it's light right here, just almost outlining it. I'm going to rough this in. And I'm picking the areas in the beginning of the show where I'll have to be careful, because you know how it is when you start painting or when you're starting to write an essay. You're careful when you first start out and you get sloppy a little later. So I'm doing the careful parts first. Now that's a lot of red, and I've been doing so many cool colors, I wasn't sure that I even wanted to do something that bold, but I figured I had to give it a shot. Just been too long. And where we are out here in California, the weather's warming up, so it's time for some red. This is definitely, what color is this? Well, I think if we'd have to do a new shade, it'd have to be called Sock Monkey Red. It's just the color of their lips there. And I just got back from the Sock Monkey Festival. in Rockford, Illinois. Of course, I didn't bring the old guy here. You know, he doesn't travel by plane. That's just a little too much for him. I was worried about something happening to him. And I got to tell you, every time I take the head covers or the sock monkeys with me, they always search my bags like it's, like it's something dangerous in there, and it just cracks me up. Okay, so we're just surrounding this with red, sea of red, except for where the shadows are. I'm going to put all this down. When you start to do one color on a canvas, it's very meditative. So it's a good way to start a painting session because it gets you in the zone. And for some people, the hardest part is just putting that first little dab of paint on the canvas. But you know, what's hard for one person isn't going to be for another. Sometimes I think I find the middle of the paintings more challenging, depending on what's going on with them. Okay, we're surrounding this area here. I'm going to move over to this side. Okay, this is some bright red. This is way over the top bright. I hope this is working on TV because typically red is not a TV-friendly color, but I just had to do this. We've been doing too many blues and purples lately. Oh, that looks good. I'm using a medium to help the paint flow. And this canvas, particular canvas, is really porous, so it's absorbing the paint. Doesn't seem to have a lot of gesso on it. I didn't gesso it myself. This is just how it comes. These are great when you're doing landscapes because they have a lot of extra texture. And this will be interesting for this still life. Okay, we're getting this thing surrounded. Where else do I see some light red? I got to put that in before I lose it. So there's some right here. Yeah, that's good. Some right in the middle. There's a lot of necessary background stuff that you need to do before things start to make sense. So we're just getting the workhorse stuff done right away. Could use a little bit bigger brush, but I want to get in some of these smaller areas, so I'm going to keep with the same brush. All right, and I definitely need to come along this side of this shadow. This, you know, the reds can get a little washed out in the sun, but I just didn't want to do that. And that's the cool thing about painting. You want to make it the way you want it. Okay. So I'm stepping back And you're already getting, by outlining this, we're painting almost from the inside out on the background. So by outlining this, you're already getting a sense of what this is, this corkscrew winged opener. I thought how cool it was to paint an opener, because that symbolizes, you know, openness, open to new possibilities. I can hear people saying, yeah, new possibilities of different vintage and all kinds of wonderful, wonderful wine. I was laughing earlier. We had a parakeet growing up in the house, and he never talked. But the only well, we did like our wine, and the only noise that this parakeet made was the sound of a cork coming out of a bottle. So, you know, you'd be walking by his cage, and all of a sudden you'd hear this rip, pop, and that was it. That was it. He didn't talk. He just made the wine bottle noise. Could be worse. Could have done the noise of a screw on tap or something like that. Anyway, we made wine when we were kids. My dad took us out to the foothills in Santa Clara Valley, and we picked, oh God, 300-400 pounds of Zinfandel. Made wine in the garage. That was fun. Didn't have wine cellar, so we stored some of it under the house, some of it in the hall closet, which was not a good idea because that that exploded one summer over Mom's coats. That was not good. Okay, so we got this background. And can you tell whether I like red or white wine better? And it's not just the color. I was definitely a red fan. Okay, so we got this whole thing, the background just roughed in. You've got a nice silhouette. You can kind of tell what's going on. Now I'm going to put the shadows in. A lot of times people will make shadows for red with its complement green, but I just don't like what green does to red. I don't like, not in this case anyway. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix a violet, probably a carbazole violet, with my red, and we'll make a shadow color that way. Ooh, now I think it's interesting. The little bit of green just kind of accidentally got on this red. So let's just put a little down and see what happens. That was not on purpose. It was right next door, and it picked up a little color. Okay, so that's a little too cool. So I need to merge a little of this so that they're friends. That's good. And I'm going to add just a little bit of this, well, maybe maybe that was a little more than I wanted. Carbazole violet. And I'll add a little red to this. There we go. That's rich. That's beautiful. Okay, so now that'll make a nice shadow color. So I do have a little bit of green. That was not something that was intended, but it worked. But not much. I'm going to take an even smaller brush because in this case I definitely want to do the dreaded stay in the lines so that the shadows make sense. And I'm looking for an older crustier brush that's a little stiffer because that'll help hold the paint. I'm dipping it in a little bit of the medium. And where do I see a shadow? There's shadow right here. And I'm putting it down, and I don't think I like it next to that other red, so I'm going to add some of this red right to this. Yeah, that's better. It was a little too cold, and I didn't think it was that harmonious. And these guys got to play nice together. There, that's better. That's good. So I'm going to wipe my brush off a little bit. Maybe take a little bit of the excess off. But I'm not too worried about it. I'm just going to slap this stuff right over the top. Yeah, that's better. Whoops, kind of got a little happy there with that stroke. I will take a little bit of that off so that I don't lose my place later. It happens. Okay, let's get this shadow based in. It's just a tiny little line. So I turned my brush on its side rather than getting a smaller brush. So right here, my brush is flat. And then a smaller area, I just twist it so that it's got a smaller surface. Let's see, there's some dark right under here. Got to fill in my little gap here. And there's actually a little bit of this bright red right in here. Get the two brushes going here. Okay, then we're going to go on to this next shadow. Normally I paint the objects first and then paint the shadows. But I thought this would be a great way to make this pop right from the beginning. And the shadow doesn't have to be perfect. This is you know, we know what it does, so as long as it's fairly consistent as far as the light source, it can do all kinds of interesting things. And then it goes a little bit down on the other side of this. Just want to get this roughed in so that we can start making the dimensions on the corkscrew work. We're enjoying some nice weather out here in California. I just got back from Chicago, and we took a trip up to Wisconsin, and then we went over to Lake Michigan, and I think it was 7 degrees when we got out of the car, and then the wind started blowing. Holy cow, that was cold. And I was just not ready for that. And but you know, they had people out there ice fishing, and I saw people painting. There is just no way. I like my cup of coffee in a nice little studio with no bugs and everything, but God, there were just some brave souls out there painting. And the ice fishing? Nah. But what really looked cool, though, that I thought I might try is because, out here you don't see lakes frozen over. And they had this lake frozen over, and there was this, looked like a catamaran on skis or like on more like blades and like ice skating blades. And so then it would just like sail across the lake. Now that looked cool. That looked like fun. But it also looked cold. So I didn't do that either. Of course, I was working, so I had an excuse. But I think if I go back, that's something I want to try. That just looked fun. But painting out there, can't imagine. Okay. See, by putting the shadows and getting the right color down, it already is starting to get some separation from the object from the background, which is cool. All right, where else do I see shadow? Pretty much all on the left side here, so we'll grab this wing and give it a little shadow. Okay, when we start painting this silver, then we're going to have to add a bunch of color in here, cool this down just a little bit, because if it's all red and it's all screaming, it's going to hurt. You need variety in this composition. All right, throw in a little bit of light red up there, and we're ready to start making a virtual corkscrew here. Oops, got a little bit of color in there that I didn't mean. Fill in these little gaps so that I don't forget about them later. Okay, let's see where else, just a little bit more in there. Picked up a little of that shadow color, didn't mean to do that, so I'm just going to swirl around, pretend like it didn't happen. All right, now I'm going to stand back and look at it and say, okay, is it starting to make sense? Actually, it is. You haven't painted a thing yet but the background, but you can tell that the thing that it's resting on is casting a shadow, and there's space underneath that. I really like to get that sense of space in a painting. Okay, so now I need to move the red over a little bit, start working on some of these cools. So I'm just going to pick up some of this paint, scoop it over here. And I think I will have to replenish my red. I was in painting class, and out of all things, I never forget white because I use so much of it, but so I had to borrow some from one of my students. And so I go to give her the tube back, and I squeeze from the middle. She doesn't squeeze from the middle. So it's a good idea if you borrow somebody's paint, kind of like toothpaste, try to squeeze from the bottom. I figure that's why they got the little roll-up tube bringers. right, so I replenished that red. Now I'm going to make some nice grays. Time to get out that white. All right, so, you know, when you look at this, it's got, lots of blues and grays. And so I'm going to start with some of the darkest darks and put those in first and key everything off of that. So how am I going to make this gray? Well, I'm going to take a bunch of white, move it over, stick it right in the red, that's okay. I'm going to add a little bit of blue. That's pretty light still. All right, so I'm going to add a little bit of blue, then I'm going to go ahead and throw actually even some more blue over there. And maybe even some green. All right, so we've got a nice mid-tone. That's pretty. It might not be what I'm looking for, but it's pretty. Okay, so I'll set half of this aside. Grab a bunch of blue. Cad red light. There we go. No, that's the gray I was looking for. That's going to be happy. Why is that going to be happy rather than just a straight gray? Because it's already got some of the reds in it. So I know that they'll look good sitting next to each other. And as far as a value, I don't know if that's dark enough. That's a good mid-dark, so I'll leave that over, and then I'll make one that's even darker. There we go. A little bit of red. Okay, that's a good darkest dark. So where do I see that? Now I'm going to get a little smaller brush and see where I can find some of that darker color. All right, so let's see, right here is just a blob. Blob of dark. Blob o' dark, yeah. So the questions that you're asking yourself is, you know, where are the darkest parts that I see on here? And then just go ahead and put them in. And there's some more on the inside of this. Don't know what the technical term is for that. There's some red in there that I missed. Got to put that in before it gets swallowed up. Miss some places sometimes. So right in here. And then a little bit of that dark too. If I don't, otherwise my little area will grow. And then I'll lose my drawing. We can't have that. There, that's better. Okay. So back to the darkest darks. Now, you know, this is going to happen. You start to get, you put things down, you get distracted, and you find something else. So you just work on it and then go on to the next area. So I'm going back, you know, I've filled in some of the red that I missed. And I'm going back to the darkest dark. So I've got some dark here, here. Let's see, at the very bottom of this handle. And there's also some dark right over here. Not sure what that is. And where else do I see some dark? Maybe just on the right side of this little joint. These are like little wings. And there are a lot of different interesting shapes with these openers. And I just picked this plain silver one because it would just pick up all the other color that I saw. That was really the reason. Okay, so there's some dark right here on the edge of this. I'm going to need a little more medium for it to move. It was just a little too stiff here. That's better. Make sure I don't miss any of the dark areas here. So fill this in here. Kind of overstating that, but that's all right. I can blend over it. Where else do I see some dark? Right here where this turns. And also, just in these little areas here. So if it seems real systematic, it is. But within the process, you get lost in your thoughts and all kinds of really cool things emerge. All right, I'm going to give the darks a break and add a little bit lighter color. Let's see, I might be able to mix just a little bit of this blue with a little bit of the turquoise for the lighter lights. See how that works. See if it's light enough. When I'm mixing that, there's a bunch of red that's still in the gray, and that really does make it rich. I'm going to hold it up to the, once I do the mix, hold it up and see if that's going to be working, if it's, I don't think it's light enough. I'm going to add a little bit of white to that. So I'm going to pull some aside, grab some white. Now that might have been too much. That was too much. Whoops. And that happens, so just, you just start playing a little more. And I grabbed it, that's pretty. That was a happy accident. Okay, I'm going to stop right there. All right, so what's a little bit lighter right here? Yeah, that's good. All right, so from here on, trying to see where what the shape of this does. That's pretty light right there. Yeah, that works. Now there are several colors in this area. I'm just going to go ahead and put in the main one. We want to get the canvas covered. If I was doing this in the studio at home, I'd do it one of two ways. I'd do it like we're painting now, get the canvas color, let it dry, and then go over it, find several different layers until I found every little bit of color that I could in there. And then there are other times where my method is different, my attitude is different, and I will find every little speck of color the very first time around. So neither one of them is bad or good, it just depends on what suits your temperament. I don't know about you guys, but I'm not always in the same place every day. So just go with how you feel. It all gets you there. Okay, I like that. I think it's starting to pick up. And the nice thing is that you can see the separation between the surface that it's resting on and the actual object. So when I get that, then I know that the color's right. Okay. And let's see, where else do I see this? So I think I need to put some bright, just plain bright white down before I lose that, because there's a little spot of it right. Did I lose that shape somehow? I think I need to adjust. You could call it correcting. I'm going to call it adjusting. Adjust my red over here, the shape of this little, because that just looks squirrely. Okay, I need to add a little more red there. Push that down. I'm fixing the shape of this wing here. Yeah, that's good. Okay, now I can throw in a little bit of white. And I'm going to put that blob right here and leave it alone. Because if I go back in and blend it, then it's, I'll lose it. And then a little bit of light right over the top. And almost it actually goes down like this. I could even cut it off a little further, so I think I'm going to. See, so you adjust as you go. That's good. All right, then I'll move on to the next one. Needs to be a little bit lighter over here. So I'm just dipping my dirty brush into the white because it's faster to do it that way. The only problem is I got to keep a clean pile somewhere, so I'm going to move this over. There, that's better. Okay, so there's a little bit of light right here. And I'll go ahead and just surround this little joint. And I can see where I missed another spot. And I need a different color. I was almost going to give it a shadow where none existed, and that wouldn't have been right. There, that's better. Now, typically, it depends on my mood. Sometimes I'll paint something where I just do one object, and that's it. And sometimes I'll do a real busy still life. And this is just one segment of the still life. And when I'm painting it, sometimes I'll treat it like each object is a separate painting. Helps you not get overwhelmed. Okay, and that's a little bit lighter up here, so I'm going to add that little bit of light right here. And I'm going to stop because if I get into it, I will mess it up. It will be too wet to blend. Not a bad start for that side. Okay, well I lost a nice little line that I had there. I'm going to reinstate that with a new brush because I don't want to lose that. That did help with the design a little bit. Okay, now it's time to step back and see where we're at. Okay, good. It is starting to work. It is definitely taking flight, and that's cracking me up. I just got back from Chicago, and I have a friend that just got back from Florida, and so I asked him. I go, well, what was your favorite part of the trip to Florida? He went to the Indy 500, or Daytona, I think that's what he went to, and then he saw the shuttle, he saw all kinds of really cool things, and then he tells me, don't ask me how this ties in, because it did, but I'll get in trouble if I tell you, but anyway, Hooters, that was his favorite part of the whole trip, going to Hooters. And no, I'll probably have to put me on at a different time if I started painting that. So right now I better stick to the subject because I can hear the director. You know, it's about this time of the show that the director's like, Shannon, don't go there. Please don't go there. And you know, the good thing is I'm not on a headset, so I can't hear what she's saying. I can see her behind the glass in there, but you know, it's really cool because you can kind of go, still paint. Like, no. All right. I think she's glad that I've turned them back and I'm getting back to the painting. Actually, that would be a good lesson sometime. I'll probably just have to put a disclaimer up before the show. Okay, so I'm actually going to add a little bit lighter to this side because I think the light's hitting this just a little bit stronger. So I need to wipe my brush a little bit. Adding a little more warmth to it. Stick some white right in the middle of that. If you ever get a chance to get out to Rockford, Illinois, and go to the Sock Monkey Festival, that is just incredible. It is so much fun. It's the home of the Sock Monkey. It's where these red heel socks were originally made. And God, it's just, they've just got all kinds of things going on. All right, a little more light over on this side. Yeah, it's time to paint another sock monkey. All right, so I'm stepping back again, looking at it, assessing, okay, where am I at? It's really starting to pick up some shape. So it looks like I'm on the right track. Go ahead and add some light over to this side. Okay, so you've been thinking about painting and you may or may not have tried it. What's the worst that could happen? The worst thing that could happen is that you don't like it and you throw it out. So you start a new one. Give it a shot. They're not all masterpieces. It's fun just to get it out. And if you're happy with your process and what you did, doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. It's a little bit darker here. I've also learned there are people that are safe to ask for their opinion, and others that there are not. And you'll know. You'll know when you start. So it's good to get some good feedback, and of course people will give you feedback whether you want it or not. But it's just go ahead and do it. Takes a lot of courage sometimes, but you'd be happy you did. All right, so I just put light on this side, and that's already giving that sense of turning. I'm going to add the light over on this other side here with just a tiny bit of red, because it is picking up the red from over there. That's just too dirty and not light enough. So I'm going to get a clean brush. What am I looking for? A medium-sized brush that I have not contaminated. I'm going to add a little bit of yellow to it, warm it up. Tiny bit of medium. There we go. And my job now is to make sure I keep it out of the red, which, I don't know, might be easier now. It's hard in the morning after I've had a bunch of coffee. All right, that's light, and we'll warm that up a little bit. Just a little too cold. There we go. And where else do I see some light? Right here. And right down the middle. What else can I kind of finish off so it's starting to take some shape here? I'll add the lighter blue right here. Let's finish this handle. Now, I could pick it up and make it easier to paint, and that might be a good idea. Just pick it up a little bit so that I can see the bottom. And this is casting just a slight little shadow on this side right here. That's cool. See, that little bit of shadow right there just helped that whole thing pop, and I barely got it painted. All right, so what's happening down here? Need my little reference photo to help me out. Blend that in. And add just a little bit of the darks in here, just enough so it reads. Pop in a little bit of light. Getting all my brushes going again. All right, so there's light right here. Light right here. Just going to blend just the very edges. The danger with doing this type of thing on TV, for me, is that every time I do a reflective surface, I get sucked into the painting. And so it's hard because you got to pull yourself out so that you remember to talk to people. But there's something about doing reflective surfaces that put you in that alpha state. So it's a really cool painting experience, but not necessarily around other people. So I pulled myself out. Going to go ahead and add the lights to this other side. Okay. And a little bit of dark right here. So when my voice gets quieter, that's what's going on. All right, let's get down to business on this side of the corkscrew. Got a little bit of dark here, so we're consistent. Add a little bit of light right in the middle. I'm just going to overdo the light and then we'll blend. And I'm stepping away back just to make sure that it's reading, and it is reading. Okay. For those of you that are new to the show, we tape this episode live to tape, which means there's no editing, so you get a really good idea of what we can do in an hour, or what you can do in an hour. All right, there's a little bit dark right here. And as we reach the final last legs of the show, what else do we want to do just to fill in some of these blanks? Well, we got to put the light in over on this side here. So let's see if we can't get that one done. I'm going to overstate that. And there needs to be a little bit of reflected light right here. So I'm just going to blend this little area together. So I'm just taking my brush and moving it very lightly. And just for the tip of that little area here, I'm just going to break a little squiggly. That's enough. That says enough. You don't have to babble. Throw in a little bit of red. Getting a little sloppier here because we're getting to the last little bit of time. There's some reflected red right down here. Blend that together. And throw in a little bit of blue. All right, so in this amount of time, don't have a finished product, but there's enough of it done that you get a good idea of go ahead and, just putting in the darks, mediums, and lights. Surround it first because that really helps it pop and you get a good idea of what's going on. But you can get a good likeness blocked in a short amount of time. And then as it dries, you keep putting in more and more detail, just like we did. And pretty soon you're going to have a corkscrew that sings. So thanks so much for watching Give Your Wall Some Soul. I really appreciate, all the emails and phone calls, and oh my God, the letter, the letters that I get from you guys, I'm really touched that you're going out there and painting, and it's really not scary once you get started. Just go ahead and do it. And I still have paintings that end up in the dump, but you know what? I had fun doing them. Well, most of them, okay? There were a couple I didn't like, and they just had to go. They totally had to go. All right, so you know what to do when you take this home. Basically, finish painting in the background, which that one's just fairly simple, and continue doing the dark, medium, and light areas. The one thing I learned about silver, there's not a special color for silver. Mix colors that work with what you already have so that they're harmonious. That's just the way to get it done. Thanks for watching Give Your Wall Some Soul. I'm Shannon Grissom.